Hello to all you guys out there, YouTube land. Yes, it's me, DR, and I thought I'd do an impromptu vlog on something that has been mulling over my head for the last couple of days. It's just people's hang-up about objective rather than subjective, and objective concepts rather than subjective concepts, or objective reality rather than subjective reality. It appears to me that people get very hung up over the fact that what they believe is objective. So what they believe is actually what it is the definite, that is infallible, that is exactly reality, and that's it, rather than a subjective view of things, which is actually what they think and feel about things. So apologies if you hear in the background my laptop updating, Windows updates are running and its fans going 10 to the dozen. Anyway, so in my head I kind of tried to sum up these things because I've had rather heated conversations with people on random subjects like what is warm. Because in my head, a lot of what we talk about is subjective reality, and we try and cover it up as objective or subjective reviews of reality. We try and disguise it as objective. So I think the best analogy I've had in terms of subjective and objective is, two friends go out, one's got a massive jacket on, one's wearing a t-shirt. They knock on a third friend's door and they say, "Hey, you want to come out with us?" And the third friend says to them, "Okay, but what's the temperature like outside?" And the first friend says, he's in his jacket, "Oh, it's rather chilly." The second friend says, "Actually, no, it's quite mild. It's quite warm." So the third friend does what we all would do, checks the temperature, and it turns out it's something like 18 degrees Celsius outside. So the objective metrics, for example, in that situation, is the fact it's 18 degrees. That's objective for all of them. But actually, what's really going on and how people make decisions is the subjective level. How do they feel about 18 degrees? It could be 18 degrees, and that could be very warm for you. Say you're an Eskimo, because your temperature and the things you're used to are colder than that. It could be 18 degrees, and that's really cold for you because you've been born and raised in, say, the tropics, or I don't know, Hawaii or the Caribbean, where the average temperature is warmer than that. So just having a objective number doesn't actually make any assessment of whether or not we functionally can do anything with that information. I think that's the problem. And when I've had conversations with people who make the mistake of confusing objective with subjective, is that they make decisions based on, and then they say this is right or wrong based on that objective thing. The evaluation that happens that happens of that objective metric is very subjective, and people forget that actually, because they're evaluating using their own opinion of that data, it then becomes a subjective opinion of the objective, which actually means that really the thing that's helping them make decisions is subjective. It's how they feel about it. It's not the fact that the thing itself is objectively wrong or right. It's that objectively at that point, or subjectively at that point, we look at that piece of data and we make a subjective, personal opinion about things. And that's natural. We do that all the time. That's how we function. My opinion is different from someone else's opinion, and that's fine. The thing is, what people forget when they try and cling on to objectiveness is that our subjective opinions don't have to be far off each other for us to seek agreement. We might never understand what cold is to someone, but we have a general concept of what it is as a group. So for example, if I turned around and stuck every single human being in minus 96 degrees temperature, we would understand that it's cold. How cold and the level of severity of cold to us might be a subjective opinion, but we'd understand that it is cold. So the point is, we don't necessarily agree on how cold, but we at least know it's cold, and that's how we make our judgments. We don't turn around and use an objective opinion. We basically look for as many things as we can find agreements about and then base it on that. The problem is that we forget that other people's feelings are slightly, subtly different. So what we tend to do is we go, okay, it's cold. So they agreed with me it's cold. They then agree with me about the severity of the temperature. Well, actually, that's not what's going on. We're agreeing about the concept, the vagaries, but actually we're not agreeing about the details and the specifics about it. But that's good enough for most conversations to happen. When I say I'm happy, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm ecstatic. It doesn't mean it means I'm happy. But that level of information is enough. That subjective opinion is enough for someone else to subjectively understand what happy is. Someone might say, well, how did they do that without having an objective happy? Well, there kind of is a vague concept of what happy is. We maybe use a dictionary definition, we maybe use a common definition, so we have a vague understanding, but actually what subjectively it's very different from each person. But because of our vague concept of it that doesn't necessarily have to be 100% right, but is probably, I don't even want to give a number to it, but is kind of right, then it gives us enough to start conversating about. And that's my opinion about a lot of things. That actually a lot of things are really subjective opinions that we try and wrap up as objective, but really isn't as steadfast and concrete as we might think. Anyway, this is DR just having a random ramble on a vlog. Thought I'd put one out there. This is something that's going through my head. Tell me what you guys think. Write something in the comments. What do you think about the objective subjective thing? Do you think people are too wrapped up on objective truths and objective reality? Are you with me that you think the majority of things are actually quite subjective in terms of when we delve down into it? What we're actually really talking about when we talk to people is how we feel about it and how we kind of evaluate it. And actually it's quite difficult for us to see true objectivity, because then means we'd have to get rid of all of our subjective experience to be able to evaluate that. And actually, if we ended up getting rid of all our experience, we would then, as a byproduct, get rid of our ability to evaluate the objective and to share that experience with people. So actually, we can potentially, as a human race, because we are subjective creatures, we see things from our point of view, and that's natural because we exist in one body, or as far as anyone could tell. Well, it really is a quite random conversation to try and pull an objective truth on things, and then try and make actions based on that objectivity. So if someone said it's cold, obviously I'd think, how cold is it? Okay, that's not cold to me, therefore I disagree. But does that mean it's not cold to them? So for me, it's a waste of time. I sound terrible, and this is a problem with a stream of consciousness vlog. I don't want to say it's a total waste of time talking about objectivity. There's a whole degree of what does warm mean. I mean, there's a good conversation about that. But the only way we can try and reach that is to correlate our subjective opinions and understand that actually what we're talking about is subjectivity and not objectivity, because we're not truly objective beings. We're subjective beings. It's from our point of view, from our concept, from our thoughts, from our feelings. Anyway, this is DR before I get myself wrapped up in inner twist, saying peace out and have a safe journey wherever you're heading.